Good morning, boys and girls. Today we begin a brand new unit in math. And following place value, we're going to be going into multiplication and division. When we first start out, we're going to be thinking about multiplying some smaller numbers, and then we'll eventually get to larger and larger numbers. To start us with our discussion today, we want to think about solving 12 times 3. And in order for us to do that, I want you to think for a few moments about all the different ways you have of multiplying 12 and 3 together. Pause this video and think about what you would do to solve 12 times 3. So right now that you've thought for a couple seconds, I'm going to push my work down here really quick, and I'm going to switch over to a marker so that I can write down some of my thinking. When I thought about this, I thought about doing this with the algorithm method. And this is the way that a lot of parents would do their math, because this is how we were taught many years ago when we were in school. And when we do the algorithm, we line up our numbers off to the right. So we do 12 times 3. And then we multiply, and we say 3 times 2 ones is 6 ones. 3 times 1 10 is 3 tens. Read my answer, and what do I get? It's 36. So that's using the algorithm method. And even me adding in the place values, 3 times 2 ones, you heard me say, that's me adding in some new place value speak that you and I are more familiar with today. We can also do repeated addition. So we could sit here and say we could add 12 3 times, because we know that 12 times 3 is taking 12 3 times and adding it together. And 2 plus 2 plus 2, well, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 more is 6. And then 1 plus 1 plus 1, well, that's 3. And so I have 36. You might also have said, ooh, I know that 12 times 3, well, 12 can really, if I think about it as a number bond, 12 can be broken apart into 10 plus 2, can't it? And now I can take both of those parts and multiply them by 3. So this might look a little strange. So this is 12 plus 2, and I'm going to multiply that by 3. So really what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over here. I'm going to multiply 10 times 3, multiply 2 times 3, and that will give me whatever 12 times 3 is. So if I do this part here, and I multiply 10 times 3, I get 30. And then if I multiply 2 times 3, I get 6. And if I add those two pieces together, 30 plus 6, well, that's 36. So that's using my number bonds to break a number apart. Now, we were just working with some factors and products. And a factor is a number in a multiplication sentence. And I'm going to shrink this font down. Actually, I'm going to push this down a line. Number in a multiplication sentence, and that's either the 12 or the 3. So it's one of the numbers being multiplied. So I'll add that little detail in there. A number being multiplied in a multiplication sentence. And I'll shrink my font down here so this fits all on the screen for us. And now we can also think about what is a product. So if a factor is one of the numbers being multiplied, a product is the answer in a multiplication sentence. So make sure we're very familiar with these two vocabulary words, because you will be hearing these vocabulary words over and over again as we continue in our study of multiplication. So next thing, now that we've talked about 12 times 3, I want us to take a look at this place value chart of this number here. And we see that the number is 342. It has 3 in the hundreds place, 4 in the tens place, 2 in the ones place. And I want to model, using this place value chart, 342 times 2. So in order to model that, I have to show 342 2 times, right? So I'm going to draw beneath the glare over here so you guys can actually see what's on the board. And I'm going to draw 340 and 2. So I have 342, and I have it 2 times. So now let's check out what's happening in each of my place values. Well, in my ones place, I had 2 ones, and when I multiply 2 ones times 2, I get 4 ones. And then over here, I had 4 tens. 4 tens times 2 gave me a total of 8 tens. So this 8 tens has a value of 80. And then over here, I had 3 hundreds, and I multiplied by 2. And I have now 2 300s, or 6 hundreds. So the value of this 6 is 600. If I put all of these together, I have 684, if I think about their values, right? The 6 had a value of 600. 6 is in the hundreds place. This 8 had a value of 8 tens, or 80. The 8 is in the tens place. And then the 4 is in my ones place. So what we want to do today is think about ways that we can multiply numbers. So I'm going to switch my board over here, over to this other board where we can do a couple sample problems. And I'm going to write down, let's see, 34 times 2. And let's set up 82 times 3. And we'll multiply these two problems out. So the first thing we can do is think about 34 times 2 and think about my ones place. Remember, we always start in our ones place value. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 2 and get 8 ones. And then I can shift over here and do 2 times 3 tens. And if I do 2 times 3 tens, that's 6 tens. So my 6 ends up in my tens place. So my final answer here is 68. Over here, I have 82 times 3. So I'll do 2 ones times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. And now I'll shift to my tens place. So I have 3 times 8 tens. Well, 3 times 8 tens is 24 tens. And I know that's too big to write in one place value. So I'm going to write down 24 tens. Well, that pushes me out into my hundreds place over here. So my answer is 246. I also want to take a look at a number bond example. So let's use the number bond to help us break down. Let's do 400. Let's do 403, and we'll multiply by 3. And I'm going to write it over here. So we're going to take 403 and break this down now. And I'm going to adjust my little camera. So I have 403 times 3. So I'm going to break this down into the value of each of its digits. So the 4 has a value of 400. The 0 has a value of 0 tens. And the 3 has a value of 3 ones. And now that I have these values identified, I can multiply each of them by 3. So I'm running out of space here, so I'm going to adjust my board a little bit. So I have 403 times 3. I did 400 times 0. 400 times 3, 0 times 3, and 3 times 3. So 400 times 3, well, that's 1200. 4 times 3 is 12, and 100 on the end. 0 tens and 9 ones. And now these all get added together. So I have 1200 plus 0 plus 9. And when I add all these together, I have 1209. Let's do another example of that, and pause the video if you need to so that we can see exactly what's happening with our numbers. Let's take $524 and let's multiply it by 2. Let's take 524 and multiply by 2. So let's first of all get the value of each of these digits. So the 5 has a value of 500. The 2 has a value of 20. And the 4 has a value of 4 ones. And now I'm going to multiply each of these individual numbers times 2. And I'll write my answers. So 500 times 2. 5 times 2 is 1000. So be very careful. 5 times 2 is 10. There's my base fact. And then my 2 zeros appear afterwards. 2 tens times 2 is 4 tens. And 4 times 2 is 8 ones. So when I add everything up, I have 1048. And that's using my number bond. Today, you're going to be practicing your multiplication on your own. Before you get there, you're going to complete Math Journal 2.0a in your Math Journal notebook, and you're going to solve 132 times 3. And we want you to do 2 different strategies. So you can do the traditional algorithm, you can do repeated addition, or you can do the break apart method with number bonds. As a bonus, if you want to do all 3 of these strategies, feel free to do that. When you're finished working on your math journal here, you're going to switch over to Edulastic. Now let me show you what Edulastic is going to have you working on today. So here is the Edulastic assignment, and this is what you'll see when you log in. It looks a little bit weird, so let me show you all the different little commands that we have here. You can scroll on your first page, and this is a 2-page assignment. So this little arrow over here above the plus and minus, this will pop out how to move between pages, because you can see that there's 30 different blanks here that you're going to be filling in. Don't panic, you don't have 30 different problems to do. You're just going to be showing your work through the computer. So I'm going to click back onto page 1. And I'm going to avoid this arrow over here because it's going to have me submit my work when I click on that arrow. Now over here, I need to think about my place value. So in this problem, I have 6 times 50. Well, 6 times 50 is a tough problem, so I'm going to break this down to think about my place value. So 6 times some number of tens. How many tens is 50? Well, that's 5. So I'm going to type in that number 1 box, a 5. Then for number 2, it says some number of tens. So I have to think this through. 6 times 5 tens is how many tens? So I need to think about that multiplication fact. 6 times 5. What is 6 times 5? That's 30. So I'll type in 30. So now I see that the line says 30 tens. Well, if I have 30 tens, what number do I really have? If I have 30 tens, I really have 30, and then that's in my tens place. So I add the 0 in my ones, so I have the number 300. Okay, very similarly, if we take a look at 4, 5, 6, they relate to this number 2 over here. So 4 times some number of hundreds. How many hundreds do we have in this number? Well, we have just plain old 3 hundredths. Well, now I have to ask myself, 4 times 3 hundredths equals how many hundredths? Well, 4 times 3 I know is 12. And then if I have 12 hundredths, what does that number look like for number 6? So that's what I'm doing for those questions, and that gets me down through number 12 here. At number 13, now we start looking at that number bond thing. And we know that 23 can be broken apart into 2 separate numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply whatever that one number is times 3, and then that other number times 3. Well, 23 is really 20 plus 3, right? So if we think about having a 20 over here, and then for number 14, having our 3 there. Now I have to keep in mind my work here. So in this set of parentheses, my answer for number 13 was 20. 20 times 3 is my answer for number 15. So what is 20 times 3? Well, that answer is 60. Over here, my answer for 14 is going to be multiplied times 3. So my answer for 14 was 3. 3 times 3 is my answer for 16. 3 times 3 is 9. And now, look, I take 15 plus 16, 60 plus 9, to get my answer for number 17. So you're going to finish that one up on your own. And then 321 is being multiplied by 2 over here. So you're going to have to work this one out. Work it out really carefully. You might need to write this on a separate piece of paper to help you out, and that's totally fine. This will get you down to number 24. And you'll notice that there's more after 24. So if I click in the box for 25, it might turn the page for me. If I'm over here on my arrow, I can just click on the second page as well, and it will ask me 21 times 5. And I might have to write this out on a separate piece of paper and multiply 21 times 5. And 1 times 5 in the ones place is 5. And be careful, this is problem number 7 on the paper, but it's problem 25 in Edulastic. So I have 5 in my ones place, and then 5 times 2 tens is 10 tens. So just be careful to arrow back and forth to make sure that you get your answer in the correct order. So 10 and 5, 105. You're going to continue with Edulastic problem 26 through 34. You can pause this video or rewind this video so that you can have any question that you have possibly explained even further, or explained again if something was a little fast for you. So please don't be afraid to replay this video. And we'll see you guys later on to talk to you about how your multiplication work went today.